Hello guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to the build or assembly of the Breitling Sailplane. I gotta get the lingo right, otherwise people let me know that I get the lingo wrong all the time. I like to call it a turbine glider, so that's what we're gonna call it. But this thing's going really quick. We got some cool things happening in this video. Let's roll that intro and we will get into the build. Alright guys, so in the last video we assembled the wings with the IDS servo actuating systems. I haven't done the other wing yet, but I will get the other wing done. Now, my buddy Simon reached out to me and he let me know that the best way to attach those servo covers is with some goops. But what we're going to focus on in this video is going to be the fuselage stuff. So thanks to one of you guys, the viewers, reaching out to me. I think it was on my RC Universe post, and I asked for some pictures on the rear end, and he sent me the pictures, so thank you very much for that. So we know what we're doing in the rear end. We know what we're doing with the control surfaces, so we're going to be doing a lot of the fuselage stuff in this video. It's going to be a quick one, and I suspect by the end of this video we'll have the fuselage assembled, and the next video might be the actual assembly of all the components and wiring and stuff like that. So we'll see, but thanks guys for tuning in. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below. Don't forget to give the video a thumbs up, and at the end of this video, check out the website, lightersideofrc.com. Lots of cool things constantly updated on there. All right, so first quick note here for you guys. These are the servos that were shipped with the plane. Now they do not fit, oops, in the anyways, it fell through. They don't fit in the standard servo openings. So these aren't standard servo openings. They're miniature servo openings. And that other servo is a micro servo, I think is what you'd call it. So we are going to put JR, the 3711 high voltage servos in here. So these can run off of LiPo, which was what we're going to use in this plane. And it's going to give us stronger elevator and rudder servos. So that's what we're going to be using in this plane. Just thought I'd show you that just so you're aware. All right, guys, so first thing we're going to do is work on the elevator actuation system. So what we're going to do is we are going to cut a slot right in the middle of this elevator, and we are going to install the horn. So we got a nice big pocket there for the horn to actually go into. If you can imagine this being the underside, we want to try and get that horn as close to the hinge point as possible, and we want to try and get the actual hole of the control rod quite close to the hinge point. So it's going to be back about here. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take this elevator off, flip it over, and just draw a line, and I'm going to put some masking tape on there, and that'll give us our line. Then just use a Dremel bit and cut a nice slot, and then we're going to put some holes in the control horn and things like that just to make it have better adhesion. But that's kind of how we figure these things out. And so I'm going to take this off and we'll work on that. All right, guys, so we put our masking tape on there, and that holds the actual elevator surface nice and flat on both sides. And then what we can do is we can take our straight edge, line that up to the center, and draw our line. So that is our line that we're going to install the horn on. Now there's a bit of a gap here. You can see the surface flexing. And then we have this like half round piece right there. So we do want to get this as close as possible. What I'll do is I'll take my Dremel and I'm just going to cut this slot. And we're not going to go crazy with the slot, but we're going to cut it fairly wide so we do have some adjustment there. And we will position it and treat this to make sure it never comes out. And to do that, it's already been sanded by MIBO, which is nice. But we're going to put a couple holes in there as well too, just to make sure that we've got good glue adhesion. So I'll do that with my Dremel and I'll show you guys the result. All right, so we got our slot cut there. Now because this surface is so thin, We just need to be extremely careful that we don't go through the other side. So I'll probably have to clean a little bit of this up with my knife. And what I'm talking about is, you can probably see in there, there's like a black piece. So that's a half round piece. And so that's what's actually stopping us right now from installing the horn all the way. So I'm just going to take my utility knife, my X-Acto knife, and just cut that out as much as possible and get this horn so it fits in all the way. Okay guys, so we can check the fit here. The horn is not glued in, it's just sitting in there. But we can see that we can get massive amounts of travel, which is not going to be needed, but we've got the space for it. So that's perfect. Love it. I think it lined up good. So now what we're going to do is we can glue that in place. Okay, so before we glue the elevator control horn in, I just want to make sure that we don't need to put glue on this. So basically the solution that has been shown to me is you install this piece like that, and the control horn hooks up to it right in this area, and it's all nice and hidden. So that is awesome. So basically what we want to do is, this is the control horn side, so you can see that the angle or the spot where the control rod's going to go in is not perfectly 90 degrees, because then we run into the pin. So that kind of makes sense. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill a hole that matches the surface here, and that's going to end up coming this way. So I'm not sure what's in there. I think this is all wood, because it feels like it's a hard point. So I think we're going to end up drilling into wood. But what I'm going to do first is I'm going to drill a nice small hole so we can see and inspect what's in there. And then I'll drill a larger hole, and we may glue this in, we may thread it in, but we'll first see what's inside there. Okay guys, so we got our little hole installed, and it's not wood in there, but it is epoxy, and we've got some backing in this point. So what I'm going to do is drill a larger hole, and then we are going to epoxy our control rod in there. All right guys, so hole is drilled in the rudder. So basically we're going to put that in like this. I think it's important to leave the clevis installed. Reason for that is you want to make sure that, number one, it is level, but if you hold it in this position while the brass insert is curing, it's also going to make sure that it's at a good angle, and you're not going to have any interference with the surface itself. So I'm going to mix up some epoxy, some West System stuff. We're going to get this glued in, and then we're also going to get the elevator horn glued in as well. All right, so elevator has been glued, the control horn there, and you can see obviously it's taped in place, so we'll let that cure till tomorrow. And the rudder control horn is also in place. And it's a nice way to make a nice clean finish on something like this when you're gluing control horns in. So you lay down masking tape where you don't want the glue, glue it on, do a nice finger joint with, I like to wear gloves when I do it. And then what we'll do is we'll pull off the masking tape, and that'll leave a nice line around the control horn. And obviously you're going to make sure that that control horn is straight up and down as well too, or perpendicular to the actual surface. So I'm going to pull the tape off, then we'll set this aside, let that cure. All right guys, now with the elevator and rudder waiting to cure, we're going to glue this tray in, and we probably will do the turbine mount as well too. I need to do a little bit of research on pictures for the turbine mount from MIBO, but the tray pretty much only fits in one spot. So if you go back too far, it if you compare the gap on the sides, it kind of fits funny. If you go too far forward, it kind of sits funny. So once I get this in the right spot that I'm happy, I'm going to take my pencil and just mark along the edges so we can sand the fuselage, because you need to sand this before you glue to it. So the other thing you want to do to get this nice and level is, I'm going to use my big level, but I'm going to put my level across the fuselage like that, level out the fuselage, and then I'll take my little level out the tray, and then we know that the tray is level relative to the fuselage opening, at least here. So that'll allow us to get those lines set up properly, and when we glue it in, that's the most important time, but just a little tidbit for you there. All right guys, so we've sanded the inside of the fuselage where the tray is going to go. And next thing we're going to do is we are going to install the turbine mount. So essentially what happens here is this position I have gotten from the pictures that were sent from MIBO. And the CFG is right on the front of the wing spar, right there where the Sharpie lines are. And if you come up, you're basically following the T. So basically the turbine mount gets installed right over the CFG. So what's going to happen is we're going to cut this slot. This is going to go from the inside, and that piece is going to come through. Now what that does too is that also sets the, this way, that also sets the angle of the turbine as well. So that's basically all predetermined as long as we fasten these two pieces up against the fuselage. And then what we'll do is we'll have some wood blocks that we'll put in there as well too. I haven't made those yet because I need to get this slot cut. And that'll be all glued in. And then the turbine mount is removable. So you take the two bolts off and the turbine comes right off. And then this will be in there and that will be protruding from the fuselage. So I'm going to use my Dremel and cut that slot out. So an important thing when you're working with like carbon fiber and stuff, I'll say this in every single video that I do this in, but you want to be wearing eye protection, and I've got my ear protection with my AirPods, they're automatic. And then what I do is I hold my vacuum up while I'm dremeling this, and that sucks in all the dust and everything. So it's a nice way to deal with stuff and not have any dust, and carbon dust is not good floating around your workshop. So let's cut the slot. All right, now we're going to switch to a little bit different Dremel bit here, and this is going to help us even everything out. All right, and there we go, guys. So that part is done. So now we just need to get all the inner workings of how this is going to work out. Now, because the inside of this plane is done in Kevlar, when you're grinding areas like this, you'll find that the Kevlar just kind of doesn't grind away. It almost turns to threads like Kevlar is supposed to. But anyways, so I'm going to get this part kind of figured out. I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to do the wood pieces and support and stuff, but I'm going to figure this out and I will get back to you guys and show you. All right, guys, so we're ready to mount or glue the turbine mount in. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to install this from the underside, of course. Now we do need some support on each side, and I have this carbon rod that's hollow. I was thinking about using a big chunk of wood, which would be fine, but it's going to add, I mean, it's not significant, but every ounce makes a difference, right? So it would add quite a bit of weight. And then I was going to use a wood dowel just because it fits nicely beside there, follows the curve and all that stuff. And then I found these carbon tubes, and they're going to be awesome. So when this is inserted, your carbon tubes are going to be sitting here, and they're going to be glued to this, to the outside of the fuselage, and it's going to be a nice support for the engine mount. And they weigh basically nothing. They're extremely thin-walled, really, really strong. They weigh like grams each. So that's how we're going to glue this stuff in. So again, I'm just going to install this. I've sanded the inside of the fuselage. We've put tape on the outside, so we've got a nice joint. Then I'm going to flip the fuselage over, and we are going to glue these in place beside the engine mount. Okay, guys, so everything's been glued in here. I'll show you. So there's the carbon tubes and the engine mount. Okay, so next thing we want to make sure that this is perfectly straight up and down. Now we could eye this with the vertical stab in the back, but we're going to go one step further. So we're going to take a level, put it on the airframe. Okay, so now we're going to make sure that the airframe is sitting level, which it is. We can check that with the other level that we're going to use, and the bubble's right in the middle. And then what we can do is take this edge and place it against the carbon and confirm that we are in fact sitting nice and level. So now the engine mount is installed. We're not going to do anything beyond that. And so what we're going to do as a next step is, because this is sitting okay where it is, we are going to glue the tray into the glider. So that's basically very, very simple. We're going to place this into the airframe. We've got a bit of a gap all along the side. We're just going to tool that with our finger and get a nice joint on either side. And then we'll be able to leave the plane until tomorrow, and we'll come back and all this important stuff will be glued. So we'll get that done and I'll show you guys the final result. All right guys, it is the next day, and most of our epoxy has pretty much cured enough, and I just strapped the engine on there, and man, that looks cool. No, it's probably a little bit hard to see in that busy background, but worked out good. That's awesome. So what I'm going to do is I'm also going to line this with foil tape on the leading edge of the vertical stab or the rudder, and also line the top of the airframe with foil tape. And on some of the pictures I've seen, they've come all the way around to here, and I don't think that's an issue at all, because you've got so much air flowing over this engine. Ambient heat's not going to be an issue. So we're just going to bring it right to probably this area right here and carry it back. All right guys, so I chopped the cockpit up to mount the data terminal for the turbine. So what's going to happen is that's going to stay on the plane like that. And then when you want to pull the cockpit or canopy off, you're going to pull the pin out at the front, and the front's going to come up like this. Back's going to unpin, and the computer will still be sitting there. So we can do a startup with the canopy on, canopy off, and our data terminal is always plugged in. So that worked out good. There's a shot of it exactly how I did it without it installed. And then to reinstall, you're going to put the pin on like this at the back, and it's going to drop in and push the pin in. Alright guys, so next thing I worked on here is mounting the canopy. So what I did was I just got the canopy on there, I taped it down, and I just put my hole where I want the pin to come in to the cockpit assembly. And so it's a little bit lower than the ridge, which means that it's actually not going into the fiberglass that's right there. So what we need to do is we need to add backer where the pin needs to come through. So it doesn't need to be very much. This is basically what I came up with. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to CA this in place, and then once I'm happy with the position of it, then I can use epoxy and glue that in place. The CA is obviously just to make sure that we're lined up well and everything's going to work good. So we're just going to use some medium CA on this, get it into a decent position. Spray some kicker, and now it's in position. So now with that done, what we can do is I can reinsert the canopy, the cockpit, right? We can make sure that we're happy with the way everything's lined up. So I can take this, my drill bit, put a mark in there, and also take my pencil, put a mark on there, and now you can see my pencil mark. I'm happy with that. It's nice and in the center of the wood. So we're good with that position. So now what I'm going to do is we are going to deal with the front position here. Now the front position, we should be able to have our sleeve or pin come up through the actual fiberglass part of the fuselage here, so probably somewhere in this area right there. I'm just going to sand that ridge off. So the way this is going to work is we're going to have a hole in the front of the airplane, and we're going to have a plastic sleeve that comes up to this area, and then there's a piece of piano rod or piano wire that pulls out when you want to take the canopy off, put the canopy on, and you push the wire in, and it's going to come through the cockpit or the canopy a little bit, and that's going to hold it in place. So if you've ever built a composite ARF or CARF Ultra Flash, we're doing this in basically the same manner that that it's done on the Ultra Flash with that pin. Now the kit comes with this pin here, which is the slide pin, right? That's spring loaded. So we could mount that on there, no problem. The disadvantage to that is then we'd have a piece of metal, or this piece right here, sticking up through the front of our airplane, which that would be totally fine, but if we can make it one step better, why not? And we'll hide it in the nose of the plane. So, all right, guys. So the canopy's all mocked up. So what I did was drilled that hole in the end, and there's a carbon rod installed in this section, and then we've glued with epoxy right here. And so our actual on-off mechanism for our canopy is this section right here. So as we pull this out, it releases the pin, and we are going to cut this off. I just threaded that on and put some red Loctite on there, so it'll be nice, and all you're going to see is the bolt on the end. And then this pin, we are going to cut that as well too. So that pin is just it's glued into place as well. So, but that's how the cockpit works. So when you actually glue this on, when you glue the clear part on, you want to make sure that you have it mounted, right? Because the cockpit naturally kind of wants to sit up like this. So you want to have it mounted, and even at the back here, we're still a little bit loose. You can see it. So we are going to make sure when we glue that on that we're taping it or putting down pressure so it's sitting nice and tight to the fuselage all the way around. And then when you pull it off, it's exaggerated right now because we have to cut that pin, but that's what it looks like. All right, guys, so we've got everything sorted out with the cockpit tub here. Now I've cut the canopy out, and on the canopy molding, there's actually like a little indent all the way along. So it's actually really easy to cut. So I cut on the inside line of the indent, and we're actually still a little bit big, just a hair in some areas. So we've just got to trim that up a little bit. So normally on a normal canopy situation, I would use the Formula 560 canopy glue. Works really well. The only thing with the canopy for the glider is it is an external mount on the plastic. So it's a little bit of a different situation. So what I did was I did up a test piece here with 3 different glues. So Weldon 16, that's what this one is. This is used for gluing acrylics together. So sheet acrylics and things like that. And you can also use methylene chloride as well too. This is like water and this is like syrup. So I tried that. I tried E6000, which is just like goop, except a little bit easier to apply. And then also good old-fashioned model cement. So I did that up right here in this exact order, and all of them looked like they worked very, very well. So the Weldon 16 actually cures the quickest. So this one is almost cured, and it looks like it sticks fairly well, but it actually doesn't stick to either of the plastics very well. So I'm glad I did the test piece up. And there was also a fair bit of bubbles in the piece as well. So Weldon 16 is out. The E6000, which is goop, it's nice and smooth, bubble free, and it's not dry yet, but I know it sticks to both surfaces quite well. You can see it's not pulling up there. And then the Test Your Model cement, there's a couple little bubbles in there, not many. And it's not dry yet, but it looks like it would stick quite well too. So what we're actually going to use for this is the E6000. Looks like the best option, and so that's what we're going to use to glue the canopy on. All right, so we've got everything nice and fit, guys. This is ready to glue in place. So what we're going to do is we're going to take both of these pieces off. We're going to clean the inside of the clear piece, the windscreen, with rubbing alcohol, because there's a bunch of fingerprints on there right now that once it's glued, we can't clean it. And then we're also cleaning it to clean up the edges. And then the other thing we're going to do is clean up the perimeter here so our glue sticks. Now the goal with this, of course, is to get a decent amount of glue on there, but not too much where it runs down or up as little as possible. So that's the goal. We'll do the best we can. Once this is in place, we really don't have any access. So you can see on here, I mean, they obviously struggled with this one as well too. This is a stock one that came with the glider, and I mean this edge is a little bit rough, and you know, it's still a great job, but our goal is to get it fitting as best as possible and as clean as possible. Now we've got no access for magnets or anything like that, and it is absolutely critical that you do not take this off and glue it, because as soon as you take this off, it's now not formed to the fuselage itself. So it's really important that you glue this in the fuselage. So I'm going to put some glue on here. It's going to be a fairly quick process. And again, a small little bead, as little as possible. And then we're going to open this canopy up, slide it over, get it in place, and then we're just going to tape it down. So we don't have a lot of chances with this thing, and we'll just have to do our best. All right, we're going to have trusty bent screwdriver here just in case we need some help. Let's see how this goes. And actually, we do need trusty bent screwdriver's help to get underneath the turbine. Okay, so glue's installed. Now it's the canopy, so we're spreading it. So everything worked out really, really good on the canopy. I'm happy with most of the, well, basically all the glue joints. Most of them are pretty good. There's a nice wide band of glue. There was a couple spots where we put too much and it actually kind of oozed out the sides. And then there's a couple areas where it's holding on with a nice thin band, but none of that really matters. We've got nice contact all the way around. So we need to let that cure basically overnight. Before we take anything apart, because as soon as you pull the canopy release, remember the natural position of this cockpit tub was nose this way, back end that way, right? So once this dries, it'll keep everything nicely in place. So the only things we really have left to do on the fuselage for the build portion is hooking up the rear rods, which we can't do until that canopy comes off. So that is basically it for now. All right, guys, we took the tape off the canopy and everything worked out absolutely perfect. So we got nice glue joints all the way around, and I'm very, very happy with the way that everything worked. So I'll show you exactly how this works here. So on our front end, we've got the bolt and rod assembly. You can see it inserted into the canopy there. So give it just a bit of downward pressure, pull that out. Only needs to come out about half an inch on this end, or about 2 centimeters or so. And then canopy slides off the pin back here. And that's it. So worked out absolutely awesome. Very impressed with this. And we've got nice glue joints all the way around. So really, really clean and happy with everything. All right, guys, well, Does it look like me? We are making good progress on the MIBO Swift Turbine Glider. This thing is going to be crazy to fly. Really looking forward to this. This is going to be the end of this video. So we got a bunch of good, solid progress completed in this video. I have a feeling, honestly, guys, that we will be wrapped up by the next video. So I think this glider is going to be a total of 3 videos to get the build complete. So I'll give you a quick rundown here of what's left. We still have to complete the other wing. We've got to hook up the control rods going to the back end, which is pretty simple to do. Once that's done, then we can get our fuel tank figured out. And once the fuel tank's figured out, we have equipment to install and balancing and stuff like that. So it should be a fairly straightforward next video. It may go into 2 more videos, but I have a sneaking suspicion we will get it completed in the next one. So now we are putting a gyro in this glider. Now you may say, why are you putting a gyro in a glider or a sailplane? Well, every plane flies better with a gyro, especially in the wind and stuff like that. So I mean, you can turn it off, right? But it's going to be in there, so that's a nice addition. The gyro is here. It showed up. It's a power box extra. So that's going in here, but we're going to get a lot accomplished in the next video. So thanks, guys, for tuning in. It was awesome to have you watch this video. If you have any questions, don't forget to list them down below. You can also reach me via email. And if you have any questions about any of the products we've talked about in this video or other videos, check out my website, thelightersideofrc.com. Check out the shop there. We've got a bunch of products listed on the website. So check it out, guys, if you have time. And if this is your first time finding my channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below. We'll see you in the next video, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Take care.